How does SSL work? If you want your company to be viewed as a trustworthy business, you need to make sure that you protect your customers' interest. You have to make sure that your customers are protected from possible internet security risks. This is why it's vital to consider the transition from HTTP to HTTPS, or simply use SSL. The previous topics talked about what an SSL and SSL certificates are. Our next topic will now get a more detailed understanding of how SSL works and how it impacts your customer and your business. Life with and without SSL. Before we discuss how SSL works, let us quickly examine what happens to you and your customers without SSL. For clarity purposes, we'll be using an analogy to get a better understanding of how SSL works. Let us use this example. You wanted to buy a new smartphone. You went to a gadget store and asked the store assistant to show you the latest smartphone. As you're checking on the features of the phone, you made a final decision and told the store assistant that you'd proceed with the transaction. You're directed to the cashier to fulfill the transaction and proceed with your payment. You notice that there are other shoppers inside the store also looking for some gadgets that they want to buy. What if one of these shoppers is a hacker waiting to get some information from the other customers? The hacker is pretending to be a shopper, and the hacker's primary purpose is to steal payment information from the other customers. Despite the threat, you still proceed with the transaction, thinking that everything is secured since it's just you and the cashier talking to each other. No one else is near you, and you are 100% confident that the transaction will run smoothly. The security of your transaction without SSL. You're in front of the cashier, ready to pay for the item you bought. The cashier prepares the needed paperwork, asks for your details, and the mode of payment you'll be using. You decide to use your debit card. The cashier asks for your card, swipes your card on the terminal, and invites you to key in your PIN code. The transaction gets completed, and you walk out of the store with your new gadget. The transaction is straightforward, right? However, what if the hacker who's pretending to be a shopper uses a device to capture your PIN code, card number, and other personal details? The hacker does not need to be near you to accomplish this unlawful plan. The problem with this scenario is that there's no added security protocol to keep your transaction confidential. The security of your transaction with SSL. Let us use the same example, but this time the shop is using the concept of SSL. How will the transaction look like with the use of SSL? As you're ready to make your payment, the cashier does not simply ask for your details and your card. The cashier now adds layers of security to keep your payment transaction safe. First, the cashier will ask a security personnel from the mall to be present during the transaction. The cashier hands the security personnel an envelope with a piece of paper where you can write down your personal information. The security staff hands over the confidential envelope and asks you to open it and follow whatever instructions are indicated on the piece of paper. Before you can open the envelope, you're invited to proceed to a room that no one else can access except you and the store cashier. Second, you proceed to the secured room, open the envelope, and write down all needed information to fulfill your transaction. You'll then place the piece of paper in the envelope, secure it, and give it to the security personnel. The staff then hands the secured envelope back to the cashier. Third, the cashier goes to the room, checks the details, and then confirms that all information is correct. The cashier then asks you to get back inside, shows you the payment terminal, and asks you to swipe your debit card. Fourth, the security personnel ensures that no other person can access the secured transaction room except you and the cashier. The staff will be outside the room, making sure that no one is eavesdropping. Fifth, the security personnel gives the signal to swipe your card and key in your PIN code. The transaction gets completed successfully. The cashier then prints out the needed receipt, places it in an envelope, and gives it to you. The transaction is completed, and you step out from the store with your new gadget, feeling happy and secure because you know that the sale happened just between you and the company representative. What did you notice with the transaction? The transaction happened between the company staff and the buyer only. All exchanges of information were secure, and no other person got access to the customer data. This is how SSL works. It makes sure that the exchanges of information between the customer, website, and browser remain to be encrypted or secured. Even if hackers are lurking on the web, SSL makes sure that the data shared between parties continues to be inaccessible to other people.